Hey guys, it's Femi Lanvers, and I'm really excited today. I'm here with Ron Apke from the Land Portal. And what's going on, Ron? How you doing?
Femi, happy to be here. Long time coming.
I know, right? Years in the making.
We've messages on Discord. We could probably go back 5 years, honestly. But yeah, it's good to have this one-on-one conversation. Both of us having different land business, everything like that. But yeah, it's cool to come together and talk about this.
Absolutely, man. Awesome. So, kind of talk me through first, just like how you guys got into the SaaS space and like what made you want to build the Land Portal out and to where it is now.
Yeah, so it's probably a couple years ago when like the idea first came about. Was It was more so just we wanted to build something that our business could use. Like that was the number one thing behind it. Is like we obviously had online community, everything like that, but build something that made sense for us. And if you use some other older software, all these other things, like we started to get into project based things with subdivides, with all these other things. And I think the model was outdated, and there's nothing that is land specific. Like you talk about Deal Machine, you talk about PropStream, you talk about all these things, and not shit on any of them. They all have their use cases for sure, but there's nothing like for us. You know what I mean? And
Right.
that was the biggest motivation behind building it. And it's not easy to build a SaaS company or like a software company for sure. And it took a long time, and it was years in the making. But that's when the idea kind of sprouted. It's just like, okay, we need to build something where we can be more efficient land investors, essentially. And that's when we started. It was probably 18 months. We might be going on 2 years since we started the project. So it definitely took some time, but it's come a long way. It's crazy looking back at like videos that I made even 8 months ago. It's like, holy moly, like it's changed a lot. Software is always changing, but yeah, it was the idea came from us. Like as far as like, what do we need for our business?
Love it. Yeah, I mean, I remember. I mean, you guys started maybe like 6 months to a year before me.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember when like we started at the same time, there was no filters for land. Like there was nothing for land specifically. You couldn't do what you do now. So like all these people really have it a lot easier with the platform like the Land Portal. But like remember the way you'd have to scrub it. I mean, like farmland, agricultural land. Like maybe I'll be right, maybe I'll be wrong, maybe I'll find something a ditch somewhere. And then I remember you scrub it with living square feet being
Mm-hmm.
0. And now I just love the fact that now we can just say, hey, there's no property on it. It's just vacant land. That's like it's a game changer. And I think people that are in it today don't even realize like what
Oh
it
my gosh. I
like what
used to
figure out.
when I was getting like frustrated with mail numbers or like yield and stuff like that, like I would pull up data tree, I'd pull up the map, and I'd hand select every landlocked property. I'm like, I'm not sending like it's like it was so one by one in
Yeah.
terms of like to get like it was a legitimate like click the box on every single property you don't want to send to. And you would get a VA to do that or something like that. But I think it was for the better, honestly. We did a lot of deals in the two states where it came up. The two states we had the biggest issues in were Kentucky and Alabama. Kentucky is historically bad as far as vacant land. Every piece of vacant, quote unquote, vacant land from the county has a damn house on it.
Yep.
And Alabama just has 60% of Alabama's landlocked.
Yeah, Kentucky, I actually still haven't had any luck. Kentucky's rough. Alabama, yeah, but I think especially with you guys, again, just the way that you can scrub things out, the way you can bulk pool, all that. I mean, for a new land investor, it's literally a saving grace. And I think a lot of these tools that are coming out now, it's just like it's so easy just to run the business because you have these tools back. I remember, like, I mean, you mentioned the VA. We would have to use a VA. She'd take a few days to scrub out, where now you're able to scrub out 20 or 30,000 records in what, 10, 15 minutes? I mean, just the time it saves you in your business is ridiculous. Um,
I
yeah,
think a lot of people look at like when they're talking about pulling property records and saving money on property records. A lot of people are like, okay, I saved whatever 2 cents per record, or I saved this much money by not sending mail here. That's not the cost. The cost is in answering the phone for landlocked properties, and answering the phone. Then you call them back. Like it takes 20 minutes sometimes to say no to a deal that nowadays you don't have to target it at all. And like that was the biggest frustration in those states, honest, especially Alabama. Like you get leads, Alabama, they're ready to sell, they're ready to do all this, and then you look at the land, like, of course, this is landlocked 12 miles from any road. Like that's the issues you had back then. So it was creating a solution for people like us, I think.
exactly. And I think there can be so much dissonance created in the land business. So when you have a tool like that, it does eliminate a lot of the dissonance, especially like you just said, answering the phone for a landlocked property or someone that's a time waster or someone that's not serious. These things like you being able to target a portfolio. Okay, so I want a seller who has 7 parcels, maybe because you already have experience working with people like that. Right. So then you can send them a directed mailer and you can target, okay, I have 250 sellers that have 7 parcels specifically because this is what I've seen it work in the past. You can just get so granular with this. And I think that's what makes it so powerful because the more granular, the more quality you can get in the land business, the better you're going to be.
Hmm.
And I think a lot of people will watch the content and just think, okay, as long as I just send out as much mail as possible, send out as much mail as possible. No, like you want to use a tool like this to be as granular as possible, especially as you progress in your career, right? So like for me, that's what I use it for. I use it to be granular and to dial in on things. So um, it's great.
So you when you were first doing this, as far as like you had a VA scrubbing everything in like multiple days, right?
Yeah, and it would take her days, days.
And you don't know the quality. Like I'm not going through there and checking their quality and make sure like wetlands, like I forgot about that honestly, because data tree had like wetlands overlays and stuff like that. And the
Right,
quality of data is solid for sure.
right.
But it's the filtering and like the spending on marketing and the spending of time that was just like, oh my goodness. And it probably kept a lot of people out of the business. And maybe some of these softwares, maybe the software kind of brings people into the business who wouldn't be able to make it back then. But yeah, it definitely helps efficiency for sure.
No, I mean, and even further than that, like I'll give you an example about the VA. The VA would mark a property with the river as an example, or a creek that's small as wetlands, floodplains don't buy, right? And so things like that, I can't go through. I mean, at my the most mail I ever sent before I started going towards just quality only, about 40,000 mailers a month, like recurring. And so I can't go through 40,000 records like that every single month. Like you're not going to be able to do that. So just especially just for scale, you need something that's going to help you allow you to scale and tell you like, okay, cool. These are vacant. This is how many properties a person has. It's got this much road frontage. That's what I love too. The road
Mm.
frontage. When I can see like, okay, I want 200 feet of road frontage. Because the other thing too, the biggest thing is the landlocked. I remember my start of my career, everything was landlocked, and you spend thousands of dollars on that in the time that you spend talking to the seller too. So
Yeah, I think it's that makes a lot of sense. And the like you said, granular targeting subdivides. Like I review more subdivide deals now than I ever have in my life because these people are like, I'm not targeting anything else other than subdivides. And like I'm reviewing subdivides. And the cool thing about subdividing from a land business perspective is like you can buy these properties for 90% of market value and still make a couple $100,000 very easily if you find the right markets to break it down in. And that's what a lot of people are doing right now with it is like you said, very, very granular. There's so many people, and that's the cool thing for me is like there's so many people that are using the software, and I want to learn more about what they're using it for because there's so many people in the community that are using it for in ways that I had no clue. Not saying I didn't know you could do it, but I'm like, oh my gosh, that's really creative. There's so many different ways as far as targeting MLS properties, all these different things.
right. I'm curious. I actually have a lot of questions for you. One, do you guys have like a bigger picture for the land portal and just where you guys want to take it? Is there a where do you guys see with that?
Yeah, I mean, we're mainly, and I talked to you about this before, like we are a software built by our users, like 100%. Like, yeah, we initially built it like for us, like how we would use it. And then as we get feedback, like the road frontage thing was a feedback and like we instantly put our developers on that. I didn't think they'd be able to solve it as fast as they did. But it's really just building the best software as far as for our users, and we are built by our users. Like I think the users, like we have literally channels of things where like a user gives a good idea, like we voted on it as a team, and then it just kind of goes through the development process. So we're really just trying to build a software built by the users. The best land investors around is kind of our goal. But as far as end goal, like I'm just trying to create the best, or we're just trying to continue to grow and create like the best platform for this business.
What are some major constraints and bottlenecks that people might be running into that besides what you guys already have that people are requesting?
It's a good question. It's a good question. I should have an answer for this, but we've been really fast. I can even look on the thing.
Mhm.
Trying to think what the most requested thing. MLS stuff is stuff that's have come on, like MLS. Getting MLS in there was a very, very big project where it's actually like you can see pictures, MLS pictures.
Yeah,
What I really, my thing when we first built this software, not when we first built it, but like as we're going, like, okay, let's land ID is $90 a month. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Our lower tier that can do not everything as clean as Land ID. I'm 100% like Land ID is really, really good. But like, okay, let's get rid of other subscriptions. Let's have it be an all-in-one platform. And that's where like what I want it to be next stage is like it's the Zillow. Like it's like, okay, you're reviewing a piece of land, you see all the comps nearby. It looks exactly like that in terms of like the overlay, the UX, everything like that feels like that. Because I love Zillow. I don't like Redfin from like a usability. So
yeah.
like just making it like be a one-stop shop. Are you going to send your mail from here? Probably not anytime soon, at least, but just creating a one-stop shop. It's just a lot of, we have 30 development projects going on at once. We have a big team of developers. So it's always something, and it's just prioritizing, honestly, family, is like, what is the most important thing? And it's not always about what's gonna monetize us the most. It's about like, okay, what's gonna be used the most? What are users asking for? And it's really kind of prioritizing what a lot of little things
Mhm.
that people might be asking for.
Can you talk to me a little bit more about this development project you just mentioned? And then also, was that sourced through this? Was it sourced through a mailer? Like, how'd you guys find that?
As far as the MLS stuff,
I think you had mentioned a development
no, I
project.
was talking about developing the software. I was talking about
Oh,
developing the software.
okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I thought you were saying we have a 30 lot. I misheard that. Okay, my bad.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, 30 like developing projects at the
Gotcha,
time.
gotcha.
As
Okay,
far as yeah, yeah, yeah.
okay.
For our developers,
I
software developers.
completely, yeah.
You got
Yeah,
excited about that. Yeah,
I
that's
was
awesome.
like, "What?"
Yeah.
I did on that topic, you mentioned subdividing. I'm curious what your take is on people that are newer that see people that are more advanced subdividing and decide to jump to that instead of building the cash flow first in the land flipping business.
I love it. I mean, honestly, like I'm not the type of person to like tell someone you can or can't do something. Like if you want I just got off the phone with someone before he hopped on, and he has 2 entitlement deals. I'm like, all right, cool. Like, what did you do before that? He's like, no, this is my first 2 land deals. I'm like, all right, there you go. He's like, I'm trying to get into, he wants to get into subdividing now to have more cash flow.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, I'm never like, there's more money in subdividing. Like there just
Yeah,
is, as far as, yeah, it's going to take a little bit longer.
yeah,
Don't just target subdivides, but we've had so many, and I'm sure you've seen a lot of people like their first deals are like 5 lot subdivides. It's not that crazy of a thing. We're not that smart to be able to do that stuff. You know what I mean?
right. No, for sure. My only take on it is when people like it also depends on their situation. Like
Don't use all your cash for sure for
exactly,
marketing.
exactly. Like some people will use all their cash for marketing in hopes of getting like an entitlement deal or a subdivide deal, not realizing that that might take 18 months.
Hmm.
Like perfect scenario, if all your lots don't sell when you need them to sell, well then you're going to be looking at a tough situation. So
Yeah,
for
that's a good
me,
point.
yeah, I always like teach it for people to have the cash flow from the land business, even if it's a few hundred grand a year, but then still go towards these bigger deals and go after that, but have the cash flow too. That's
Rarely do I see people targeting subdivides off the start. Maybe if they have $50,000 and they're like, this is what I want to do. Like the people that do that off the bat are very direct. Like, this is what I'm doing. Don't tell me anything else. I'm like, all right, go for it. Um, but there are a lot of people who run into very, very minor subdivides. That's our first one. We had one, I think he bought for 30 and sold for 115. It was like 6 acres. He broke it into 3 2-acre lots. I'm like, yeah, that makes 100% sense. Like it's sell 6 acres for 70 grand or sell 3 2-acre lots for 115. Like all day long, you're going to do that. I don't care how much experience you have. So
right.
it definitely varies person to person, like you said.
How long did it take him to do that one?
So he got his money back on it. Wasn't, I don't know the acreages, but I know the number was buy for 30, sell for 70, or buy for 30, sell for 150 on a subdivide.
Yeah.
And I think by the time I talked to him was like 30 or 45, maybe 60 days after he first bought, and he had all his money back plus like 10 grand. He still had one more property to sell.
Nice. I think those things can definitely happen, but they can be rare, you
Yeah,
know?
100%.
My thing is like people think that they're gonna have that lucky shot where you may not always have that. Gosh, there's one more thing I was gonna say, and it escaped me.
It
But yeah,
happens.
yeah, it does.
It happens. It happens. Are you, so as far as your students, like, are you doing a lot of subdivides for the more experienced people? Like what do their businesses, average business look like?
Yeah, so it's mostly just cash flow land flipping businesses first, and then once you get to the point where my goal, I mean not my goal, my rule actually is get to a million liquid. That's
Mm,
what I was actually going to say. I was going to tell you, so someone getting into this, that let's say a doctor or an executive that wants to invest similarly to how you'd invest in like a duplex or a multifamily home or something like that. I think a person like that would be the perfect person to invest in a subdivide. That's what I was going to say.
mm,
Uh, but if you're just starting, like the average of what I see coming to me are people who are just starting, trying to like, build, or people that are trying to scale their business. And that's on average what I have. People that were either scaling, that have done this before, that were scaling them to bigger numbers, or people that are just starting. So I think for both of those profiles of people, you need to be focused on getting cash flow in first, because it doesn't make sense to like the terms and all these things when you're getting funding sometimes for subdivide deals, that they're not always great, because it's a longer time period. So the average funder you might work with is not going to fund it the same way that they'll fund a flip, as an example. So, and there are some funders that just won't touch it.
mhm.
So yeah, that's on average what we're doing.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, you got to learn how to do this business, I think, and then the other stuff kind of build on top of that. Sometimes niches just fall in people's laps too. Like sometimes it's a subject, sometimes it's something weird. I don't know, but yeah, a lot of times these niches, like people just run into them. Like, all right, how can I do more of these? So yeah, a lot of different strategies along with that. But yeah, building some cash flow, especially if you're trying to leave your job. Like someone comes to you and they're like, yeah, Femi, I want to leave my job in 6 months, 8 months. Like, yeah, you got to build some cash flow. You can't just have one deal that you're relying on.
Exactly.
That's probably not the right way to go about it.
No, exactly. And that's why I teach that, because I feel like everyone has this feeling about them that, people that are getting into real estate and getting into like, I want to develop, I want to be a developer. I mean, if I could, I've heard that so many times. I'd be a billionaire the amount of times that I heard that, right? So if if you just build up the cash flow first, then you can go and do that. But I
Mhm.
think like just getting into it and being like, I want to be a developer, it's like it can be very tough in the beginning. And just for me and my risk profile, I would rather have the cash first and teach people how to have the cash first than jump to that level.
Mhm. It feels like a buzzword sometimes when people say developer, like all this stuff. Like you just hear a lot of stuff. You're a big like you talk about systems a lot. Like right as far as like building systems around a business. Like what is the biggest thing someone? And I know I'm kind of interviewing you now. What's the biggest thing as far as like building systems? Like what do you see? What's the first thing you do with someone in terms of systems?
Yeah, the biggest bottleneck I see is lead management.
Mm,
Any person, any client that I worked with that's already done this, the lead management is just very poor. So there's a very distinct lack of follow up. There's no touch points for a lead, and there's no movement on these leads. And I think a lot of people, when if they call like 3 or 4 times and they don't get any answer, then they think that it must not be a deal, and they're only calling. So then I'll ask. I've been on calls where I'm like, okay, well, did you text? No. Did you email? No. Did you have the email? Yes. I only called 3 times. Did you leave a voicemail? No. So it's just like no lead management process. That's the first thing, and then it's just building process around, okay, when it is the time for me to hire, now I have the process built out, so I can just literally slot this person in. And I think most people don't think about that when they start, because there is a very distinct like, let me just hustle and try to get this done. But yeah, get your deals done, but also in that, think about when it's time for you to have someone in this, how they're going to do it and what they're going to do. I
mm.
think that's very important.
Yeah, whenever I'm doing something, especially new, like I always try to record LIM videos, and like
Yeah.
even though I'm talking to some made up employee that I don't have yet, I record a LIM video. I'll title it like, hopefully I don't have to do this again. Hopefully someone else will do this next time. Whoever I send it to, I don't know. But just like creating a library of like how to do things in your business. How does Femi operate in the business? Like it makes it very, very repeatable, and an employee, it turns into a playbook. I don't know if you've listened to or watched or read, sorry, Buy Back Your Time. But amazing book, and just like building playbooks for your life, essentially for your business, on how to do specific things. Cause you might think something's obvious in your business. Like you might think it's obvious, call people back, text them, do all this stuff. But building a playbook around that will be very, very effective.
No, it is, and I think just being intentional about building those things out, because it's easy to get caught in the everyday just hustle of life, and I think most people don't think to do that. But if you just take the time, literally, like you just said, recording a loom and explaining what you're doing. That's all you have to do. But then also making sure that the process that you have is a winning one, because
Yep.
some people have losing processes. If you have a losing process, then it's always going to be a losing result. So I'm curious, what would you say have been the biggest like challenges, constraints in growing the land portal and like getting features done and
Um, I mean, development's always like, I guess, a constraint as far as that. Um, but I think we've kind of like business, all businesses kind of like a roller coaster. Like you go up and then you flatten, and then you go up and then you flatten, and go up and flatten. Like just building market share, honestly, is like it's always like I always try. I'm not the most like reaching out to everybody one on one, but I like talking to people. I've made it more of a we've started to do a lot more one on one as far as like trying to help people out with their businesses, talking to them. I think like building use cases for people, like making people see the use case of the land portal in their business or whatever. But as far as like constraints, like developing is probably always going to be for any software company, probably going to be the biggest constraint forever. Like you think of things like this sounds amazing. But then it's like, okay, how many months is this going to take to get developed? And it's just like prioritizing things, kind of like I said before, honestly. Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. We haven't hit any crazy like bottlenecks or roadblocks yet, I guess.
okay.
We did have one where we changed, like we've building a lot of these like proprietary, some people don't realize like our slope report took a year to build. I don't know if you messed around with the slope report on there.
I have, yeah.
Yeah, like that was a legitimate year to build. Like there's nothing like, and then you get it, you release it and you're like, I want more people to click that crap and pull it and see that. Like I want people to see this because it is something that literally no one else has in the world as far as like the data on one of those reports. So just like building things and then just like, it's just prioritizing and seeing what, and like you go into these projects that take a long time and then like, you don't know how it's going to hit the market. I know the value in that report though. So I don't have any regret in that in particular.
I love to hear it. Can you talk to me a little bit about how you guys are using it to find deals in your own business, and like what were some, here's a better question. What have been like some like heavy hitters that you guys have had from using this, and like what did you target? What kind of strategies did you use to find those when you were building it for yourselves?
Yeah. Yeah. So that makes a ton of sense. Yeah. The biggest thing is going to be the road frontage without a doubt. So the filtering, the land specific filtering, where you have road frontage, wetlands, FEMA, and slope, essentially. Those are the big ones. Road frontage is probably the biggest one where I target pretty much exclusively subdivides in terms of that. And that's what we're like, there's so many different ways to go about it. You can build a list with 20 to 30 acres, 1,000 feet plus a road frontage, and then go up 30 to 50 feet or 30 to 50 acres and do 2,000 plus feet of road frontage. It's just building lists for that are, it turns out to be like 600 properties in a county, maybe less than that sometimes. You get deals pretty much every single time if you're targeting correctly. So I do blind offers for subdivides, and I don't do it based on the market value of the land. One thing I never do is offer above market value. So if I'm buying 50 acres, I never will pay above 50 what 50 acres is worth. But that being said, I will pay up to what 50 acres is worth, because I've built some things in our Excel where we can predict the end price based on the county's regulations with subdividing. So all those different things. So that's what we kind of do, is build very specific lists for subdividing based on the county. So I'll literally have, all right, I'm offering 50 acres. I think the values were $200,000 as is. Here's how we can break this up based on the road frontage. So there's formulas in there based on the road frontage. I can break this up based on the county regulations as well. I can break this up into 10 5-acre parcels. I think for each 5-acre parcel, I'm going to get $50,000, and then we end up getting whatever $500,000 from those $200,000 out. So we have a projected profit after subdivide in all of our projected value after subdivide in all of our Excel, and that's how we kind of target very, very specifically.
Nice. Are you, when you're sending out your mailers, have you ever tested with the copy of your mailer and like how it's written to see how sellers respond differently?
Yeah, when we first started this business, it was much more bulk as far as that. We've tested out a lot of things. We've done home mailers. One thing that's really big right now, I don't know how much you've heard, like, is home mailers. People are doing Valentine's mailers, St. Patrick's Day, Easter mailers, all these different things. I don't have time to do that in my basement like some of these people. So testing copies, definitely. The thing that I think at scale can get you the best response, where you're not packing envelopes yourself, is just making the mail more personal, like
Mm,
making it less generic, maybe paying a little bit more for an envelope that isn't a double window envelope or a window envelope. Those are things that just will, you don't know exactly open rate, but I know my call rate. And that's
yep.
where we have seen an uptick from our copy, our ABC testing, everything like that, is when it's a little more personal, when it's not double, when it doesn't look like a bill. Like I throw away double window envelopes every time, not every time, but you know what I mean?
Oh,
Getting people to open, that's the battle.
it definitely needs to be more personalized, and that's what we hone in on. And also, when you open it, what does it say? Because the other thing too, I started realizing, okay, well, if everyone is sending out this thing and it has the same kind of copy on it, I remember, 5, 6 years ago, um, this is the same. Like everyone's sending out the same exact thing, right? So if everyone's sending the same thing with the same copy, that's what sellers would tell us. Like, I see like four or more. You guys the same company, so it has to look different. And so I think about what 2, 3 years ago, I started testing that. I'm like, okay, what happens if I write it this way? What happens if I put this on it, like this kind of logo or this kind of color or this kind of picture? What happens when I do that? And the response is always so much better. And that's why we track conversations, because if I know, okay, well, I sent the mailer like this. This is how I wrote it. This is who I put on it. This is how I framed it. Well, then I had more conversations than with this other one. So I'm just going to go for this. So I think the metrics that you're tracking are really important as well.
For sure. And it was probably, I don't know, it might have been 6 years ago when I first realized this, or what, I don't know when exactly, but we got under contract in Kentucky. A property was 3 acres, like on a lake, but for some reason they landlocked this property in, and it was on a lake behind another like 2 acre property.
Mhm.
And I'm like, shit, I need that 2 acre property. I never skipped trace a number in my life before at this point. I was only sending mail. So I got out a pen and paper and I wrote a message, or I wrote a piece of mail out to this person that owned the property in front. 7 days later, this is one piece. Like, I'm not targeting a bunch. I put a number on there. I'm like, I'll pay you $9,000 for this or whatever it is. They called me or text me, however they reached out to me. And like, we were under contract. We bought that with the 3 acres behind it. We negotiate 3 acres behind. I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is a very personal thing. Like it's very one-to-one. And that's where it like click, like we got to test some other things. That was the first moment. Like you get a 1 out of 1 response. Like that's pretty good. You know what I mean? Yeah, I offered a good amount because I wanted that, because I knew how much money I could make on them combined. But 100%, like you're saying, A/B testing, doing these different things, like you got to get people to open your mail. That's the biggest thing. But with that being said, going back to like our strategy, Femi,
Yeah.
is we make sure that price is very, very, when we're doing subdivides and we're offering a number that I know they haven't got offered before, because I know how to project like the back end, I'm going to make that price, that number on that letter in terms of the offer price, very, very big. And they're going to see that.
No, that's one thing that I've learned is making bigger offers.
Mm-hmm.
That's so important. And I think when people get into this, they think that if they make the smaller offers and they'll get easier deals, when in reality, less people are actually going after the things that are costing 2, 3, 4, 5, $600,000. Way less people are
Oh my
going
gosh.
after it
Yeah.
because they think it's harder to do, when in fact it's easier to do. It takes you less effort. Like my biggest deals took me very, very minimal effort. And so it's switching that mindset around too. Because if a seller opens something and they see $15,000 versus $600,000, it's two different metas in their mind, regardless of if it's 70 or 80 or 50% of the market value.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's a huge point. It's just like, yeah, it's taking at bats at those bigger ones for sure. Some people are just doing double closes and offering $500,000 for $600,000 properties, and they're doing 10 deals a year, making $1 million, like very little effort. But there's so many different strategies to do this business successful, and that's the cool thing.
No, absolutely. Two questions. What were some of the biggest challenges and hurdles in getting your land business started? I actually have a story, but I'll save that for our podcast.
There you
uh,
go.
but what were some of the biggest hurdles and challenges for you, like getting started, getting things rolling on your journey?
So when Daniel and I started, Daniel's my brother for anyone who's listening. Daniel and I started, Daniel called me, I don't know, it was right around Christmas one year, and I was coaching college basketball. I coached college basketball for 2 years. I had a really good sales job before that. I'm like, I'm not doing this anymore. And I quit. And then I started sending letters out for to people to try to work be a college basketball. Basically, volunteers what I was offering them, and that's what I was. I was a volunteer essentially for 2 years, full time, no other income. And towards the end of my second year, I knew I couldn't do it anymore, just financially. Daniel called me, texted me. He's like, "Let's look into land or whatever like that." And I'm not one to like overthink things. I'm like, all right, sure, why not? So we got started in that right around Christmas. I don't remember what year, but we got started on that. We hit the ground running, but just the education, I think just learning, honestly, like there's so many things you don't know, like targeting counties that I would never, Pueblo, Colorado, whatever that's called. I don't remember what they're called. What's the common one out there in Colorado? There's one everyone.
Ostia?
Yeah. What'd you say?
Ostia?
Ostia County, Colorado. That was our second one. Our first one was Henderson County, Nevada, I want to say. So these areas, I'm getting these deals like, that doesn't look nice. So then we went to some different areas. We went to Tennessee, we went to Georgia and South Carolina. Our first, we did a county in Georgia. It was probably our fourth county we ever did. We sent like 1,200 mailers and we got 7 deals and legitimately $400,000, $500,000 of profit on like 1,200 mailers. I'm like, oh my gosh. And this was after like relative success before that. But that's where like, it's just so much learning and adjusting and how you're doing this and making offers and like not knowing how to review land. It's crazy to look back at it, honestly, and like the lack of knowledge at that point and how steep the learning curve was. Yeah. It was fun though. Like I remember the first check. I'm sure you remember the first check you ever got. Like it was a piece of property we bought with tons and tons and tons of trash on it. We negotiated them down from like 8,000 to 5,000, sold it for like 12,000. And like that $12,000 check felt like it was $5 million. Yeah, I mean, hurdles, just learning, I think is the biggest thing, like just constantly learning, adjusting. I was making no money, but I didn't really have any bills. So it was just adjusting, I think.
Yeah. And the other thing too, I think the same things that worked back then just don't work anymore because people have gotten a lot better. And so that's one thing I see, like, don't try and just go through outdated things. Like you got to stay updated to the times. And that's one thing I realized because I started seeing things change. And that's why it's so important to be doing it too. Like you got to actively be doing it because things are changing and things are getting more competitive and people are switching up their mailer templates and people are scrubbing things in different ways. You just have to stay up with the times and understand what's happening in order to be competitive. Because I mean, the reality is you're going to be competitive if you're just paying attention, you know? So
that's a good point. It changes fast and like being active, I think, like for the people who are doing this business, like being active and learning and talking to people like you makes me smarter. Talking to people who are doing this business, like interviewing people, like that just helps so much. Being a part of a network of community, whether it's free, paid, whatever in between, just continually learn. And like the people who fall out of this business are the people that like think they know everything. And then they all of a sudden 12 months go by and everything they knew is completely different. And that whatever they knew before doesn't matter anymore.
No, absolutely. I'm curious, have you ever had any clients or students that you guys have worked with that have had some stuff like that? Obviously no names, but I'm curious if like you've seen that in people before. I definitely have.
As far as like falling off?
Yeah, just like
100%.
Have some success and then they kind of think that they know everything and then it's like I'm just
getting a deal on your first mailer is a poison. Like I just like it truly is. Like I like the people who have some grit, who are $7,000 in the hole or whatever it is. I don't care. Like whatever the number is, like have some grit. They fight through it. Someone I interviewed earlier, she got a deal on her first mailer, and then right after that, 6 months of nothing. And I gave her. She's been doing this for 3 years. I'm like, you could have quit after those 6 months, or write him. And then her next deal was a $300,000 profit deal. So it's just like that's how it works. At some point, it's going to happen. But yeah, 100%. There's so many people who like knew everything at one point and then just stop growing and then they just fall off.
No, and like we were saying, the game changes very quickly. So if you're not paying attention, it'll leave you, you know? 100%. And I think that's, I mean, just sharpening your skills. I take this as seriously as like, you know, LeBron would take shooting a basketball or Floyd would take throwing a punch. And you do have to take it that seriously if you want to be very good at it. So
yeah, I mean, you're going to make the most money if you're learning, if you're like, There's some people that just a little more hard-headed in terms of that, and it definitely bites on the ass. I think overall, like it just will, because it's going to cost you money, and there's no point in not trying to like learn and grow. And I learned so much from like other industries too, which is cool. Whether you're learning from house flippers or wholesalers or completely different, like I learned from ad agencies in terms of like looking into PPC and all these different places, because there's so many different ways to do this business. Developers and tailors, all these different places.
No, absolutely. I study the wholesale businesses a lot, and just other ways. One thing that I've realized along my journey is that most of these things are the same thing. You need eyeballs on whatever it is that you're doing. You just want to see what you're doing. You need to talk, have a conversation, build that rapport, and essentially close them. And it's all the same stuff, right? And so for me, I do look at like, okay, what are some means of client acquisition that maybe land doesn't even do at all or is not even thinking about. Those are the things that I look into, because like that tells me where the business is going, a few years down the line. Hey, maybe this is a way of client acquisition, like reaching out this way. As some of these sellers die off, because most of the time our average archetype of seller is still an older person, right? If it's not the older person, then it's the child that's still a bit older. Like, they're maybe 50s, late 40s, right? So they're not as tech savvy, is my point, right? But as time goes on, let's say 5, 7 years from now, those people are also going to get older. So they don't understand AI. They don't understand, maybe their kids do. So maybe we reach out. So these are things that I think about. How is the game going to like elevate and change? And how do you stay up with the times and making sure that you're getting more deals than anyone else?
And yeah, that's a good point. And like, I think land as a whole, just because how new it is, or like people, there's not as many people doing land as wholesale or whatever, like learning from the other, like land is always behind in terms of systems and strategies. Cause I think it's because it's kind of like a poison again, is because like it is really easy to make money. Like at comparing to other things, like
Yeah.
it is easy, so people get lazy with it maybe, or like strategies don't evolve as fast. So learning from wholesaling, as far as like systems, you have wholesaling companies that have incredible systems in
Mhm.
terms of like how they're doing the business. So learning from that kind of stuff, implementing, making adjustments, I think it's absolutely like can make a land business so much more efficient and valuable.
Right. I would say that it's very simple too. And I think learning from, like you just said, some of those other systems and placing them in here is, yeah. Uh, One thing I wanted to say too, do you want to go over some tips and tricks, maybe some Jedi tricks that people may not know of the Lamb Portal?
Yeah, for sure. You want me to share my screen then?
Yeah, go for
Let's do it. Let's see if this works. You're a good interviewer.
it.
I've enjoyed it.
Appreciate it.
Share my screen. All right. So what do you think, as far as I want to make this as valuable as possible for people? What do you want me to go over in terms of, obviously there's so many different things you can do on it, skip tracing, everything in between. What do you think the most valuable thing is?
I think people will be interested how they can go and find higher ticket deals.
Okay.
And I have, obviously I'll chip in. But people, the biggest thing I get is like, how do I find these larger deals? Like, what do I
Love
do?
it.
Yeah.
Let's do it. So subdividing something definitely where you can. So we'll kind of focus on that part for now. Can you see my screen all right?
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Oh,
So let's go.
let me add it to the stage. No, there you
All right,
go.
there we go. All right, let's go Ohio. Where do you like doing deals, or where do your people like doing deals? Anywhere?
I'd like to start in the South.
Let's
South is
do it.
always great.
Let's do Georgia. I was
Cool.
actually talking about Georgia yesterday because the mail laws and everything like that. I'm like, start cold calling. Daniel
Yeah.
and I were talking about it on a podcast. I don't remember when we were recording, but like, there's opportunity, Femi, in areas where there are barriers. That's what I always like. There are barriers to entry. There is opportunity. 100%. Mail gets more expensive. Less people are sending mail. I'm going to send more mail. So like any barriers, like I run for that stuff. The texting, when the texting laws got really bad here for a little bit, and people are so scared to text, you double down on texting. Where in Georgia?
Let's Douglas County or what's the other one? Putnam. I love Putnam County.
Ooh, Putnam
Get
County.
you guys some game today. Putnam County
All
is
right, let's do it. All right, so let's go down here and we'll kind of walk through the filters here. We do have advanced filters. I'm not going to walk through those at this point. But as we scroll down, if you want to do certain zip code or certain zip city, you can obviously do that. We won't do that here. Let's just hit vacant lots. Again, this is an AI vacant lot filter. This is not reliant on county data. That's one of the bigger things on here. This is county data. Like I said, Kentucky earlier was a really bad one historically for where we've done it. This is going to be 99.5 plus percent accurate in terms of this because it is not based on county data. The county says the parcel is vacant and there's a house on it that was built 3 years ago. It is going to find that house. Let's go acres. I'll kind of do it how I kind of go after subdivides. We'll do 20. I'm going to do 20 to 30 for now. And we could do out of county, out of state. I'm not going to do that for now. We'll go do 20 to 30. I'm not going to worry. Let's do slope. So I'm going to do under 15% slope. Let's just go 50% of the property is under 15% slope. So this is half the property is not severely sloped is essentially what I'm saying here. Landlocked. We don't really have to do this because we're going to put road frontage. I have 20 to 30 right now. Let's go 20 to 30. So I always say, Femi, like, I always like at least 200 feet of road frontage for a 5-acre property. I don't think any less than that makes sense for me.
Same. I do the same thing.
So if we have 20 acres, let's go like 800 because we can get 4 parcels out of that with 20 acres. Maybe we can be creative, but let's just go 800 plus on there. FEMA max, we'll go 60 as max percentage on FEMA, and we'll go 30 for wetlands. Wetlands, I am a little more wary of.
Question: what's your thought process behind the 60?
What my thought process with going higher, like I don't have an exact thought process of that number in particular. Why I always go higher on FEMA is because FEMA floodplain can be used. It just typically can't be built on or built on easily. So someone can go hunt on the back of FEMA. Wetlands is kind of like useless.
Exactly.
If you want properties where owners have more than one property, like a lot of people, and this is one of the things that like these use cases that I find out as I talk to users, a lot of people are going after portfolio owners and like they're trying to make bulk offers for these people that own 10 properties, 12 properties. There's been tremendous amount of success where people are buying property in Georgia, Texas, all these from one owner, which is really cool. Obviously, we're not going to hit that for this. This other stuff is a lot of it's house stuff. We will go out of that. Down here, you can exclude certain words. If you want to exclude church, just hit enter. Cemetery, I don't know how to spell this, but I think that's wrong. LLC, whatever you want to do here, you could just do corporate owned. If you don't want corporate owned, we'll just do those as example. You could type in what state are we in? Georgia. So you could type in Georgia if the state of Georgia owns anything. Let's go there. We'll hit apply here. Shouldn't take too long. And I didn't expect to get a lot of results because we only did 20 to 30 acres. So a couple options when you're going here. And that's why I did a smaller acreage range is what we can do here is actually build a list. And this is what, as you get more advanced with targeting big properties, I mean, even when you're first starting, and we can zoom in just to confirm that these properties are what they think, what we say they are. Like, this is the coolest thing about doing this is the quality of your properties. Yeah, this one has a utility easement going into it, but you click in, you can see exactly what it is, confirm that it's exactly what we're saying. 2,300 feet of road frontage, 25 acres here. You'll see any MLS detail if anything is found there. But just scrolling through, I'm just kind of looking. All these are solid properties. Again, this is a property not like, actually, we do have some road frontage over here, so that's nice. 26 acres, and we can cut this up probably 4 times, relatively easy, maybe 5 times. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to go back to the list here, and you can actually create lists. So what I like to do is if we're doing Putnam County, we got to create Putnam, Georgia. If I just was saying this is a subdivide target, and again, all these, every single property on here, I am thinking like I can make 6 figures on this. Like that's when I'm targeting these type of things. I want to be able to make 6 figures on every single property that I'm targeting. I'm going to hit save here. I'm not going to go to save the list. We can do that after. I'll do it for a couple more real fast. So what I'm going to do here, the only things I want to change is I want to build this list and I'm going to adjust the acreage. So now I'm going to go up 30 to 40. And I want to add, I just want to make that minimum road frontage, Femi, a little bit more, since we're not going to be able to break that up. Like 800 feet of road frontage for 40 acres is not that much. So I'm going to raise this to like, we could go, let's just go 30 to 50, actually. Let's go 30 to 50. And then let's go like 1,200 feet of road frontage. That's going to be able to get 5 to 7 properties. And you can always when you do subdivides, like, do you like flag shaped properties? Like, what's your opinion on that?
I like to see road frontage on both ends of the property. We have one in Colorado right now where it's exactly that.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I like to see the L-shaped road frontage. And the other thing too, I was going to say about subdivides is like there are many times. I mean, many times where I've gotten a subdivide deal in that I could have subdivided that I just flipped because I was able to get it under contract at the right price.
Yeah.
So
Some
yeah.
of these can definitely turn into that for sure. I'll hit apply in here. So now essentially we have 36 more. If I go to list view, hide those and show those again. So now again, these are going to be same idea. We just have a little bit more road frontage, a little bit more acres. So we are above 1,200 feet. We are between 30 to 50 acres. And again, you're just kind of building out this list as you're going through here. So let's say it's save list. So we're going to add it to a save list. And we'll go Putnam. Wherever that went, did I not save it? We'll just create a new list for now. Hold on. Let me see if that's in there. But essentially what we're doing is we're just building this list and then exporting it all at once. So I'll go after, okay, these, I need to combine those. That messed up. Yeah, essentially you're going after all these at once. You're building a big list for the different acreage ranges and then going from there. Any questions on what I went through there?
That's crystal clear to me. So then it's just be continuing to build the list on top of that, basically.
So let's see. Yeah, I would probably go 50 plus and go like 200, 2,000, 1,800 maybe feet of road frontage, something like that. But the nice thing is like you can do this however you want. Like I said, we have some people who are just targeting double closes, high ticket double closes, what we call them, and they're going after $300,000 plus properties, putting $100,000 of margin on them, and trying to double close. And they, like we talked about earlier, their letters are very specific for that, like trying to get a 90-day contract on it. And there's been really good success with that as well.
And how are they going for those margins? Like, what are they putting in?
I mean, you'll kind of go backwards, honestly. Like when you're doing that, you'll go backwards and you'll go on Zillow, essentially. Choose good areas, obviously. Go on Zillow, go to Redfin, wherever you do that, and find out like the value of 50 acres in an area, whatever it is. And then just picking a county and then like, okay, this acreage range is going for $400,000. I'm going to go between this and this acreage range, input what I predict the price is, and then take off $100,000 essentially.
Yeah, that's the exact same thing that I teach, and making more of those offers too. Like the more offers you make, the more lucky. I mean, not even luck. I don't want to say luck, but I do want to say the better of a chance you have of getting those deals done.
Yeah, definitely not luck, but yeah, going after those offers, I think is the biggest thing. But yeah, from there, like once you get in and build your whole list, I actually saved 2 of the list. That's on me in terms of that. But yeah, I mean, you can export from here. You can skip trace from here. If you want to bring them all on the map at the same time, obviously I didn't combine those lists accidentally. But if you want to bring them all on the map at the same time, you can do that before you export, and then exporting a list, and then obviously targeting them how you can see everything on here in terms of what you have from all your lists combined. And that's the coolest thing is like, okay, you have this acreage range with this road frontage, and all these are going to be on one list. Then it turns into your Putnam County. I think you could build a list of 600 leads relatively fast. It sounds like you've had some good success here, though, right?
Yeah, good amount. Yeah, I had a buy for 220, so 440 out here.
That's amazing.
Other cool ones too. So yeah, that one. So it's actually a double close. But that was before Georgia started cracking down on people and doing all the withholding tax and everything like that. But what you said is very true. When there is blood in the water, when there is, something that people will run away from, you got to run towards it. That's how you build wealth.
I think the biggest thing with this software, honestly, and like it's crazy how many people are still paying for Land ID. Like it's not even like I love like as far as like the usability of it, but I mean it is $90 a month, and at minimum, like using one of these, using this for like evaluating pretty much everything. Like there's not much that you can't do. This link is a custom. So if I click here, actually, there's a few things you can do with this. Like if I send you this link, whether you are a user of the land portal or not, like all this is savable and this can be put in your CRM. Every property has its unique link. That was one of the hurdles that we initially had. People are like, you can't save your list. Every single property here has a unique URL. So literally people, you talk about systems, like people just have all their URL links in. You get a phone call that pulls up and links to the property, and then literally it's one click of the button to pull up the land portal link and review. But as far as like overlays, everything's in here in terms of reviewing a piece of land, everything like that. But anything else you want to see on here? I mean, it can do. I think the main thing, honestly, Femi, is people getting on and playing with it because there's so many different use cases.
No, there really are. I mean, I think the one you just showed is one of the biggest questions that people have, right? And so just knowing how to do that, how to pull it, like what I think there's a big thing with just I talk about dissonance a lot, but it's a real thing, like getting rid of all that and just going towards something. Like I remember when like this is such a powerful tool because I remember starting out and having to go on the list. Even like this is when I couldn't afford a scrubber, right? So I'd have to like go and like type it out. Okay, this property. Okay, if I want to do this, I got. But now, I mean, you just gotta search it or have a link, and it's pretty incredible. So
last thing I'll show real fast is the MLS, which again, it's in beta mode right now. It's being kind of finalized with all that. And people are, I do this I'll do this every night. Like my wife will be like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm just looking for some land. But this is, I don't like saying this is the only software because I'm not 100% sure always. But as far as like, so you can use, obviously you can look MLS, that's very normal. But what you can use a combination of is for sale, land. Oops, I didn't hit a state. That's why I'm like, what's going on here? So let's go back to Georgia. Why not? We'll go Putnam County, Georgia. And what you can do here, sorry. All right. So for sale land here, obviously that's all very normal. You can search by acres. That's very normal. But what you can actually do a combination of is looking for exactly what we just said. So maybe you want 500 feet of road frontage for things on the MLS, 500 feet of road frontage, and you can do this. And one of the things that people don't realize also, Femi, is when you're reviewing a property, we do this a ton. It's the opposite. Like one of the issues with reviewing land is like, you want to know if you're reviewing like kind land. So what I do on here when I'm comping properties out is go the opposite route. So if I have a really slow property I'm trying to comp, I'll go on here and you can literally get comps for all properties that are really sloped. So instead of looking on Zillow, you're comping literally all these properties have really bad slope. Here's what a bad slope property sells for, opposed to kind of guessing based on pictures. We've all done that. Looked at Zillow and be like, yeah, that property looks slow, but you have no damn clue. But 500 feet of road frontage, we'll go 1,000. Let's see if anything's for sale. So 1,000 feet of road frontage, and there are people who are getting deals. I don't know if anything's. So there's 7 properties right now in Putnam County that are on the market with 1,000 feet plus of road frontage. So you'll see all of these and you can literally pull these up and you can see what's here. This is on the market for now, MLS or right now, MLS details right here. It's active when it was listed. Looks like it was listed, maybe pulled off and put back on. So this one obviously has a ton of road frontage. And there's people who are doing deals solely on the MLS just like this, going through all the pictures are pulled directly from here so you can see exactly what's going on. So this is something that, again, this is in beta right now, but it works pretty darn well in my opinion.
No, I love this. And I think the more people are able to play with this and get into it, I mean, there's so many strategies that you could just come up with. I can think of about 20 right now. So
I always am like, I literally, what I did the other day, again, this is one at night when I was, and my wife's like, what are you doing? And I would literally went like this. So let me back up real fast. I'm just going to refresh real fast.
Ron, give me 1 second. I'm going to pause the stream. I got to use the bathroom real quick.
Good. Go for it.
Good.
All right. So last thing I'll show you guys with that MLS. So what I was doing the other night, whatever, I would literally, I grabbed the Polygon tool and I went like, all right, let's find some subdivides in Georgia. And this is what I did. And I went through and actually by the end of the night, I was in a conversation with a realtor for a property that I thought I could have subdivided pretty well. The deal fell through. But again, this was 30 minutes of me just playing at night on this, on the software. So I literally made a polygon of the whole state of Georgia. All right, let's go 20 plus, let's just go 30 plus acres and let's go 1,500 feet of road frontage. I think I'll be able to subdivide those. That was kind of my thought when I went through this. MLS, we're going to do for sale. And And you can do greater than, like, you could for days on market, anything like that. I'm just going to keep it as is for now, but essentially we're going to get a lot of leads here. Obviously this is the entire state. It's going to take a second to figure out what's inside that polygon. But yeah, that was my thoughts when I did this the other night, Femi, as this comes up, is like, all right, let's get as many properties in Georgia. I love Georgia. Like, it sounds like you've done a lot of deals down here, and it's literally looking through each individual property and kind of finding out the road frontage. That's what the thing is about. But yeah, it's just like the ability to look for land on the market doing this is there we go, 370. And you can hit show on map. And what I did was kind of show on map, and then I'll kind of just zoom in and see what's going on. Different areas that I know that I've done deals in, like something like this, for example, like, all right, let's see what's going on here. And this actually has a ton. It's 381 acres. $1.5 million. That says it was off the market. Maybe it's pending or something, but just go through properties. This is every single property on the market in
When was that? Sorry, I'm getting in the deal mode now. When was that $1.5 million one listed?
This one?
Yeah.
Let's go back to it. Let's see what it said. Let's see what happened here. Oh, so it went pending again. So that it might have ended up selling. It hasn't been marked sold. I'm guessing that's what happened. But I'm not sure if it got sold or it's in that pending mode right now. But yeah, you literally just go through all these and just see what's going on, honestly, and you'll find deals. Like, there's just no doubt about it. You'll find deals. You can obviously adjust your filters, but this is 370. And we always talk about it like, well, who's the most interested in selling? Like, yeah, you can get the best deals off the market, but who's the most interested in selling? The people who are listing their properties. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if you can make deals happen for stuff like this, now everyone's going to do this who's watching probably, and like try to find something. But I mean, best person wins, I guess.
Exactly. The other thing too is you got to think about, a lot of people don't think that, oh, I'm going to be able to get a deal on market, but you actually will be able to if you call enough people, because most people don't even have good marketing. Like, a lot of these guys don't know how to sell land. And it's crazy that it's still a case. Like, you look at the average of all these pictures, most of them suck. Like, most of I see, like, I'm counting a few that suck.
Look at this right here, 255,000. And you can also see the date. We're working on adding filters and stuff, so you can filter just like Zillow, so you can kind of see exactly like what do you want to filter by in terms of the order. But like, you can see the date, like, okay, this one's been sitting since 12/10. It's listed for 255. It's being listed at 208 or 208 acres. But like, there's just, you will 100% look for the oldest listings that are bad. Those are the ones where you're going to make deals happen. I've done deals on the market. It's just like that, in terms of like, you're looking for areas where they're just not marketed well. And then, you know what, a lot of times you call those realtors, what happens is they don't answer their phone, and you have to call them 3 or 4 times for 3 straight days for them to answer. And like, okay, those properties aren't selling, not because the land sucks, because the realtor sucks.
Right. So in all honesty, if I was at zero and I had a tool like this and I could pay $40 or whatever it is to go through this, I would literally go through all of this and call the bad listings, even if you're just going to do it on Zillow. Like, that's just some advice. Like,
you get a little under market value. You can assign it to bigger investors. You could assign it to me or you. Like, if someone brought me a deal that like a couple $100,000 profit, or maybe I just take care of the deal and at the back end, whatever, like, yeah, 100%. Like, it's not that hard to make money in this business at this moment.
There's no excuse for it. That's just one thing I want to say before we get off. There's no excuse. So don't be lazy. Like, go after these deals, because they're out there.
Awesome.
You'll get them. So.
If you guys are on Femi's, I think you got a link in the description probably below, Femi, for Land Portal.
Yep. You guys go below, check out my link below, and go sign up for the Land Portal. Great, I guess, impromptu training. I know we're gonna do some more stuff, so I'm excited about that. And yeah,
we'll get you on our call next week. But no, appreciate you bringing me in front of your community, everything like that. It's I'm looking forward to seeing all the success. And like we said, Femi, like I've said a lot of times to you, is bring feedback for sure. We are here to build a tool for land investors like you in particular, and like people that are following you, for sure, because that's how we're going to build the best thing.
No, absolutely. I'll have a story to tell on our podcast.
I can't wait.
So, yeah.
I can't wait. We'll plan on that, but I appreciate everybody listening.
Awesome, man.